So guys, here it is, my new camera, the Sony A7IV or Alpha 7 IV, if you want to call it like that. My new go-to camera, and I've been testing it out for 3 to 4 weeks, and I'm very happy with those results. Today, I'm going to give you my initial thoughts about this camera, the things I liked, the things I didn't like, the physical changes that I've noticed that really enhanced the performance, the quality of the photos, and the video. So that's going to be the video for today. It's not going to be a 40-minute review, in-depth video review about this camera. For that, you can check out, for example, Potato Jet's channel, or Gerald and Dunn's, or Mati Hapoya's Death Done. Very thorough reviews about this camera. Today, just going to be my casual opinion of using this camera for 3 to 4 weeks. But hey, if we're just meeting, I'm Tony Fuentes, and in this channel, I do a lot of tutorials for video and photo editing. So if you're interested in those topics, consider sticking around and seeing what it's all about. Okay, so we're going to start off by talking about the camera, the general aspects, who this camera is for. Then we're going to jump into the physical things that we have, all the buttons, all the layouts that we have, things that I like, things that I didn't like, and then to the quality of the video and the photo files. Okay, first of all, who's this camera for? This is a hybrid camera. You have to keep that in mind. So it does photo and video in very good quality. Now, it's not specifically designed to take photographs. For example, Sony, we have the A7R lineup. For the R is for resolution. So, for example, the A7R4 has 61 megapixels. That's a lot of information, so you can really crop into your image if you didn't frame it correctly, or print it out in really large formats. And then it's not in the video side. Sony has the A7S series or the FX3, FX6, all those cameras with a low megapixel count, so you can achieve more dynamic range in low light situations, and you can record for longer times without any heating problem. So this camera sits happily in the middle of those two ranges. It doesn't have the highest megapixel sensor. 33 megapixels is very high, so it does shoot very high quality images, perfect or more than enough for any type of photographer, but also does video in a very high quality. 4K up to 60 frames per second, 4:2 10-bit, that's more than enough for any professional photographer, any filmmaker, unless you're trying to shoot the next Lord of the Rings movies. This is more than enough. So who's this camera for? For people who don't have the money to have two cameras, or the time or the willingness to start changing out from camera to another one dedicated photo, one for video. This camera does it all. So for example, for me, I shoot videos, tutorials, for example, right now, and I also take a lot of photographs to make tutorials about the photograph side. So when I'm in the field, when I'm traveling, I like to just start recording, and then I see something special, so I quickly change up to photograph and start shooting shots in photograph. So I don't have the time to go to my bag, grab another camera dedicated for video. It's just too much work. This camera is for hybrid shooters, people who shoot a lot of photos and a lot of videos and want it in one small package. Okay, so this camera is fantastic. I can say that for shooting for 3-4 weeks around my house, around different environments. Also in LA, when I went to pick it up, I went to Venice Beach and I vlogged an entire day with this camera, and it's simply fantastic. The video quality and the photo side, outstanding. Now, if you want to check out those vlogs, I'll link up here in the cards in case you want to check it out. What I went through, putting it through the test, shooting everything at 4K, 4:2 10-bit, and also 4K 60, and the result is fantastic, those vlogs. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the body and its features. Now, first of all, I come from the A7IV. That's my previous camera, which is recording right now. I have to check out if it's not overheating, but okay. I came from that one, and the body and the grip of that camera is very uncomfortable. It's very small, more so that my little finger down below doesn't have parts in the grip. It can't fit. In this one, everything is a lot more bulky, a lot more secure, and it's fantastic. And the grip is very comfortable. It's in the hand. It's very strong, feeling like that. And it's a lot bigger. Now, another thing that's very important for me, particularly coming from APS-C cameras, is that we have so many more buttons. We have so many personalizable buttons, of course, but also we have more wheels. For example, we have the wheel in the front that the APS-C cameras don't have. This one controls my ISO in my case. Then we have the aperture over here and the shutter at the back, and also we have the exposure compensation at the top. So many more buttons, a lot more professional. It lets me change every single value without going into the menus, change them mechanically, so I don't lose any time by going into the menus and changing the shutter speed or the ISO. This way I can have every single button assigned to what I need on the field to change quickly the settings. Now, talking about buttons, there's a very important button for hybrid shooters that they added, which is this little dial over here that lets you change from photo to video to S&Q with just one quick swift. in under a second you're in photo mode to take your shot, and then you can return to video and continue filming whatever it is you're doing. So that's an incredible tool. I found it very useful, and this really makes run and gun filming and photo shooting a lot easier. For example, in my A6500, sometimes I was shooting video in one of the custom modes and I had a picture profile on it, and then I would change quickly to manual mode to take some photographs, and the picture profile, the S-Log picture profile, will transfer into manual mode, and then I would have to go into the menus, deactivate the picture profiles. So it's a very hazardous process from changing from photo to video. In this one, it's very easy, just because by changing this little dial, every single setting changes to the photo side, and then change it back. Every single setting, every single menu that we have changes back into the video mode. So that's a very nice tool that I've added into this camera. Okay, so another prop that they added that I'm really thankful for is that the shutter closes. Here we can see the shutter close, and it opens when you want to take a photograph. For example, if we turn it off, then the shutter closes, protecting the sensor. That's a very nice feature that they've added when you're changing your lenses on field, or you don't want any moisture or dust to get into the sensor. Okay, another thing that's very important for me is the flip LCD screen that they finally added into the camera. The flip LCD screen is a must-have for me, particularly because I like to vlog a lot, and also because a lot of the times I'm recording myself and I don't see myself with the A6700. I like to see if I'm correctly in frame, if the camera has shut off, or is it still recording. For example, I don't know if the camera right now is recording. I have to stand up and check it out manually because, well, it doesn't have a flip LCD screen. Also, flip LCD screens are very handy for video and for photo. For example, if you want to take a landscape shot over someone from high up or from down below or over a corner or in portrait, you don't have to just bend in straight manners to get the angle correctly. This way, it really facilitates the way you shoot your photos and your video, of course. Okay, quickly I had to check if the camera was still recording. It is. Now I could go on and start talking about the HDMI ports or the joystick or the EBF and all the other physical details and aspects that a lot of YouTubers have already covered. But instead of that, I'm going to tell you the two things that I don't like physically about this camera. Everything is not joy and flowers, guys. So first of all, the alloy or the body material. It sounds and feels very light and very plasticky. For example, just hear this. This sounds like plastic and very cheap plastic, but it isn't. It does have a little bit of metallic alloy in it. I don't know if it's magnesium or aluminum, but it does sound or feel less metallic than my A6500. Now, talking about my A6500, once I fell when I was hiking a volcano, camera first into some rocks, and it should have been a disastrous moment, but it just really nicked off a little bit of the paint of the borders of the camera. I don't think this camera would tolerate such an impact like my A6500. Yeah, I think the alloy in previous cameras was a lot firmer, a lot more metallic, a lot more rugged. So I'm going to be in the lookout, just really protecting this camera so it doesn't fall, because I don't really trust the alloy of the body in comparison to my A6500. Now, the other thing that I don't like is the LCD screen. Now, I did say that I really like the flip LCD screen, but if we look here, over here, for example, here we can see the LCD screen, and if I move it up and down, it does have some movement vertically, which I don't really like. It really seems quite fragile and quite weak. Now, I don't know if this is a defect from my camera only or if it's a camera defect, but it does have some movement to it. Now, another thing that I don't like is that it's not aligned with the horizontal line of this camera. For example, here we can see the line, and then it's quite hanging over the border. Now I have to pull it up. There is linear, then it hangs ever so slightly down. Now, these things are quite worrying. I do have to take care of this LCD screen so I don't put it through too much hassle. So those are two things that I didn't like physically about the camera. Okay, so that's it for the body and its characteristics, the things I didn't like and I did like. Now let's talk about the image quality. Now, for stills, 33 megapixels is outstanding, guys. It's a lot of information. Any photographer, any professional photographer would be happy with a 33 megapixel sensor. Now, you can really zoom in and crop in with this kind of information, and really the loss of information is very minimal. All my shots that I've posted on Instagram lately, if you don't follow me, you can check me out. I post all my photos in Instagram. You can link it up here in the cards in case you want to check it out. But all of them, most of them are really cropped in because I like that 21:9 aspect ratio. And normally, sometimes I shoot vertically and then I crop it in a horizontal 21:9, and still I'm achieving a very nice image with no loss of information. Now I have to say that coming from an APS-C sensor camera, I do notice the quality of the full frame, particularly in the amount of information in the raw files, and then also the shutter speed. For example, my A6500 only shoots in 1/4000 of a second. This shoots at 1/8000 of a second. So I shot a lot of skaters in Venice Beach, and they were moving at very high speeds, and I was able to capture them very crisp and completely sharp with no amount of blur in those images. So fantastic using the shutter speed on this camera. Now, one thing that I have to say is that I'm limited to 5 frames per second in stills mode, just because I'm not using CF Express Type A cards. I'm using the SD cards that allow me to record any types of photos and any types of videos. But in order to shoot 10 frames per second, I do need the CF Express Type A, which are very expensive. But other than that, if you're not a sports photographer, you won't need the 10 frames per second. But it is quite a letdown because my A6500 does shoot 11 frames per second, and this one is limited to 5 frames per second unless I invest in those very expensive CF Express Type A card. Okay, so in the still side, I don't have much more to add about the quality. Other than that, they're fantastic, they're very sharp. The color reproduction for stills is out of this world, perfect from this full frame camera. Now, talking about the image quality for video. Now, it does shoot 1080 up to 24, 30, 60, and 120 frames per second full frame, 4:2 10-bit codec, which is incredible. Then in 4K, it does shoot 24, 30, and up to 60 frames per second, all in 4:2 10-bit. Now, that meaning that the colors in this codec is incredible. The 10-bit allows you to play around, the bit depth allows you to play around with the settings and the colors in post-edition without the image falling apart, which is incredible. And also the colors are very true to the reality. The 4:2 is almost a complete reproduction. It's not 4:4 like in cinema cameras, but it's very close, more than enough for any professional videographer or filmmaker. So incredible. Now, the 4K 60 in this camera does cropping 1.5 times, similar to the APC crop factor. Now, I have to say that the 4K 60 cropped in, it's still 4K, guys. It's fantastically sharp. The colors are outstanding because it still has the color depth of the 10-bit and the reproduction of 4:2. So it's still fantastic. It only zooms in just a bit. Now, I have to say that I didn't even notice it on field. I shot all the skate sequence using this 60 frames per second and didn't even notice it for 2 factors. First of all, I'm accustomed to using the crop factor on the A6500, and secondly, I normally use slow motion when I want to take some B-roll, and normally B-roll is dedicated to zoomed in shots. So normally for B-roll, I use this lens over here, which is a telephoto lens, 70-180, and I zoom in. Now, when I'm shooting zoomed in, what I want to have is the image closer to the subject to emphasize in details, for example, the expressions on the face or what they're doing with hands or certain actions. And normally I like to zoom in a lot more. It's very rare the occasion where I like to use slow motion in wide shots. So it wasn't a problem for me, guys, and I understand the controversy that this created. I was, for one myself, was one of the ones that was hating in the comments when Sony announced this camera and didn't have 4K 60 at full frame, but still it's fantastic to have. And really it's quite useful having that zoomed in 4K 60, so you can get a bit more zoom out of your camera. So that's fantastic, and I really enjoyed actually using that 1.5 crop that it has, because we're not losing any quality in the image as well. So it's very useful. Actually, a lot of people said that they wouldn't be able to use it, but actually I really like that 60 frames per second with that 1.5 crop. It's fantastic. So the video quality, I have to say, is out of this world. There's fantastic images and fantastic color that we're getting out of this camera. Now, another thing that's very impressive about this camera is the autofocus features. For example, I was shooting the Avidiaco, which is this famous skater, and I didn't have the lock focus on him, and someone crossed in front of the camera and it was for a brief moment out of focus, and then immediately the camera recognized where the previous focus point was, and it automatically locked into the Abby once again without me having to do anything. That was an error for myself because I didn't lock focus into the subject when someone crossed in front of the frame, but the camera immediately did it automatically for me and refocused without me having to do anything. So anyone can really shoot video and take amazing photos with these types of cameras, which have an AI and an algorithm which is highly advanced, particularly in the autofocus regions. I was really impressed by it. I didn't have to do too much to achieve incredible images. So all those clips were shot in log footage, and as we know, log footage can be quite a hazardous or a pain in the butt to color grade. Now, I already made a tutorial step by step into how to color grade log footage. I'll link it up here in the cards in case you want to check it out. It doesn't matter if you're shooting Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fuji. It's the same process, and just my process into correcting log footage into Rec 709. You can check it out. But also, for all Sony users, I created a utility LUT pack for all the cameras to convert log footage, all Sony S-Logs, whether it be S-Log 3, S-Log 2, whether it be 8-bit or 10-bit, into Rec 709. I'll link it up here in the cards in case you want to check it out and support me. I assure you, it really shortens the edit times with just one simple click by adding that LUT. It all depends on the gamma curve that you're using and the color mode. You just select the corresponding LUT, add it to your files or to your clip, and it automatically will be converted into Rec 709. So if you want to check it out and support me, links up there and in the description. And also, I'm going to give you guys, just because you stayed into the very last minute of the video, a 50% discount on that LUT pack with the link that's appearing on screen right now, and it will be valid until the 15th of March. So that's a way I can reward you guys for staying into the later hours of the videos, because that really helps me out with the retention rate for YouTube. So throughout my videos, I'm going to start sprinkling in some discount codes for you guys that stay into the very last minutes of the video. So that's about it, guys. That's just my opinions about this camera, my initial thoughts. That's not a very thorough review or anything like that. No comparison with the R6 or with its competitors. Just my initial very raw thoughts about using this camera, why I chose it, the qualities that it has. Maybe it helps you guys choose your camera. Maybe you want this one. Maybe it helps you not go for this one. Maybe you need something more specialized. So put me in the comment sections any thoughts about this camera, any questions about gear in general. I'll do my best to answer them. Other than that, guys, remember to like the video. That really helps me out. Comment, share it with a friend. Also helps me a lot. I'm Fuentes. Cheers to all of you. See you in the next one.